So welcome to Athletic Wise, where like-minded people come to connect. We focus on sports science, in particular neuroscience, and how it relates to the sports we love. In today's edition of the High Performance Speaker Series, we'll be discussing focus. So there are attentional circuits in the brain that are active when we're paying attention to something. There's also other circuits when when our mind is wandering. But when we're performing a sport, obviously at the elite level, we don't want those circuits to be active. So we're gonna look at the sport of bobsled today. So obviously, you need extreme focus in bobsled, otherwise the results are catastrophic. So we're really lucky today to have this incredible athlete on board. We have a multiple medalist at the Olympics. She's a member of the US Bobsled Team. She's won numerous World Cups and over 24 World Cup medals. Kaillie Humphries, thanks a million for joining us.
Of course, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I love speaking science with people that actually understand it way better than I do. I know the athlete side and I understand focus and what my body and how I get my body to do it. But as a whole, and you have that knowledge, it's always fun and super cool to chat with you about that, knowing you understand exactly how the brain works and why, and the wiring and all that kind of stuff.
Well, so you're executing it quite well. So especially now with COVID, how have you maintained your focus over the past several months?
I think at first, when everything kind of hit like March, whether you're in Canada or US, kind of globally in the world, everyone, a lot of it was adjusting. I think sport's been great in regards to teaching me how to change direction fairly quickly. An obstacle comes up, whether, it's been COVID for everybody now, but, whether it's therapy related, sports related, gym access, equipment related, it could be teammate stuff, coaching stuff. You learn how to kind of re-navigate a little bit, but maintain focus. So I've had practice doing it, to say the least. I think for me specifically, knowing bobsled and our Winter Olympics are still planned as scheduled, it was a bit easier because I was able to continue to keep focus on preparing for this upcoming season. Being aware that we didn't know how the season was going to go, I've kind of just had to take it step by step, but understanding and trying to remember the big picture of it being about the Olympics in a year and a half from now, the Winter Olympics for us, and maintaining focus on that. It didn't matter what was going to happen this season. I still had to hit my goals athletically and mentally this year, racing or not racing, being able to train or not train. So I had to adjust. I had to start investing in gym equipment to have at my house because all the gyms were closed. My husband went out and built we call it a frame sled, but it's kind of like a Prowler push sled, but it's on wheels. So I've just been pushing up and down my street right outside my house, getting the neighbors involved, doing what I can to make sure that I still mentally am at the level I need to be. Intensity dropped a bit for a couple months for sure, while I had to navigate. But at the same point, that was okay, because stress in other areas in regards to my husband's job and family and what was happening was a bit higher. So I lowered my intensity level a little bit, and then just got in the training that I needed to get in to feel good for the day. So ultimately, if and when the season happens and I return, I know I can stand on that start line and still be confident. And I know that I could get to an Olympics now and be still super ready to go, and I can still have my best results.
Wow, that's phenomenal. That's great. So do you have very specific goals for this season?
For this season, so we just found out mid-September what the season's going to look like from the International Federation, the IBSF we call it, the International Bobsled Federation. So there are still some races this year. Team USA has chosen not to go over to Europe first half, just with travel and safety and COVID-related stuff. So we're not going to compete first half. We still plan to do the second half of tour. So that will be a couple World Cup races. I'm used to doing about 8 of them, and then a 9th race being a World Championships or the Olympics in that Olympic year. This year, I'm probably going to get 2 or 3 versus 9. So it will be a very reduced season. But all the more reason why I need that focus to be there, because I do only have 3 races, 3 weeks to really nail it, where normally I have 2 months worth of competition that I get to build up, and I don't have that right now. So I'm continuing to go through the motions. I'm continuing to prepare as per normal, keeping things as normal as I can so I can stay on that same cycle, and we'll see come January what happens. But the plan is still to compete come February for World Championships that are now in Altenburg, Germany.
Amazing. Great. Well, a lot of times when I work with my athletes, I say you need an uncluttered environment to focus properly, or whether it's, you know, someone in the corporate world, I say basically like clear your desk, right? So on a day-to-day basis, what does that uncluttered environment look like for you?
It's understanding. An uncluttered environment for me is allowing and knowing that there are going to be some days when I'm not super motivated and I don't really want to do it. So I figure out what it is I have to do to be okay mentally. So I know I still worked my hardest and I still broke even for that day. And then giving myself time and opportunities and finding those opportunities to do the other things that make a difference. And for me, that's finding sponsors, creating sponsorship packages, fulfilling sponsorship obligations, working with teammates, trying to set things up, equipment, or, you know, technique-wise for the next season, and always thinking and planning ahead on next steps. But I have to make time for that. So to keep myself uncluttered, I have to compartmentalize things and allow myself the opportunity to have a time and space to do it. If I just go, oh, I'll do it. I push it off. I focus on training. And then I get panicked and I go, ah, and then it stops me from training for a bit till I unclutter everything. So knowing things are coming, putting it in my schedule to have a time and a place for it within the day, knowing if I have to do this, when is the best time? What is my priority in the day to get it done? What are my priorities in the week to get everything that I need for this week done? And then trying to think ahead to a month and a year. And I spend, you know, the early season in March for me working on getting everything done. So once competition starts, I can just compete, but I definitely have to plan, prepare, and kind of compartmentalize everything to make sure that the balance is even.
Oh, that's great information. So like you take, you know, you obviously, this is a professional job for you and you take care of your own focus, but you're in a sport with teammates and you're relying on your teammates to focus as well. You got, you know, both your lives in their hands. How do you manage that? Like, is it a collective focus, or you basically, it's left up to them, or do you help steer them in?
It's a combo of all of it. It really depends on who the teammate is. I'm now in my 16th year. So I had the advantage of coming in fairly young into bobsled, and I really had to rely on the experienced veterans to teach me how to compartmentalize, how to focus, what are the important things. So I know what to place in a top priority versus bottom. And that's been a learning experience for sure. But as the sport's gone on and as I deal with teammates now, a lot of it just depends on their life experience. How old they are, have they competed at a high level before in a different sport, or are they on their way up to competing at a top level in any sport? Working with them if they're willing and able and wanting my advice. Great. And definitely knowing that if there's somebody that I have to work with that I don't necessarily understand or get along with, that we do have those common goals. I think that's so important, is understanding that we don't get to pick our teammates all the time. Sometimes we do, but it's rare. So you're going to find people you're going to love and it's going to be amazing, but you're going to have people that it's a challenge to have to work with. And so finding those common goals, I think, is so important. It's easy to do when you like the person and you're like-minded and it makes sense. But when you have opposite plans and preparations preparing for a race, it's definitely challenging. And continuing to go back to what that main goal is that you both, or a bunch of you, can attach to. What are we trying to achieve here? And when you can focus on that, trust has to be the next step that's got to come into it, because you have to trust your teammate will create and focus on that goal and give everything they have to that same goal. And if you can both do that, then it doesn't matter. And whether you're friends or not friends, I still think that that's a very important thing to working with teammates, to dealing with people, whether you like them or not, is what is that goal that you both want to achieve, that you're willing to sacrifice for, that you're willing to work super hard for, and then coming back to that, especially when the distractions come in, What do we have to do to focus on that? And then again, experiences play into how easy it is for them to get back to that common goal that you both are trying to achieve. Trust plays a factor, and experience and trust and how you get to there, but maintaining that common goal is so, so important for any group or working with teammates in general, and keeping it performance, you know, curbing your ego, curbing, you know, personal issues or things that go on. Communication also extremely important. If it's not your day, it's not your day. Own your mistakes, own the wins, celebrate the wins, but definitely communicate how you're feeling, what you're feeling, because it isn't just you. You are accountable to somebody else. And then take that ownership in your professionalism. This is my job. This is what I'm doing. Even if it's not your full-time job, knowing that you both are sacrificing for something, having that respect in that other person and for yourself to know that that thing is what's keeping you at the center. That's the core of the earth of everything that you're both working for.
That's amazing. So how about like game day, you know, you're sliding or in between slides and in between runs, and like maintaining that laser-like focus, not listening to the crowds, or let's say you know, you biff it on your first run. How do you kind of just keep it all together?
I've had to learn this one. My very first world championships, I kind of made a few mistakes. But I was lucky and fortunate that when I wasn't in the high pressure situations, I watched a lot of athletes that were, whether they were male or female, other athletes that were the best. And I tried to pick out commonalities. What were things that a lot of these top athletes were doing that were all very similar? Because chances are they're doing them for a reason. So what I found, at least in my sport specifically, is the time between run 1 and run 2, or run 2 and run 3, that time is so critical. And if you're running around trying to distract yourself and you're super busy, I found you didn't have that extra energy, that CNS, you know, resource to tap back into when you needed to focus. So I go into the start house, I chill, I try and take a nap. I can't take a nap. There's no way I'm sleeping. I'm super wired, but I close my eyes. I remove myself from all distractions. I do a very good job. And I think this is something that allows me to be at the top of my game all the time, of monitoring my energy levels as a whole, and understanding that I only have so much to tap into. So again, where is that energy going to? And on race day, you know, it's like a power bar on your phone. You only have so much every day. And so when it's gone, it's gone. And so you don't have time to replug in or do stuff. So how am I going to spend that day? Where am I going to put those energy sources so that they're most valued when I need to be on the track focusing 110%? And the rest of the time, you know, I have to be selfish with it. I need to shut the world out. I need to shut it off. I don't, you know, when we're at the Olympics, I don't watch other events. Usually I go to one women's hockey game because it's early enough on, but otherwise I don't watch stuff. I don't pay attention to stuff. I get too nervous for other people. Yeah. So I have to know that about myself as well. You know, I work with my teammates, but I definitely, you know, have to understand myself and where my energy goes. And then when I've got time, and my teammate also has to monitor that, so we can get that goal at the end.
Wow, that's amazing.
In regards to focusing though, I would say like on the task at hand, it's a skill. Definitely it's something, being able to drown out the crowd. It's not something most people, it's easier for some, but I don't think anybody can, some just get used to it more, for sure. It definitely is a skill that takes some used to, takes some getting used to. But also I think it's important to set yourself up for success in regards to that. So not letting yourself be distracted. My parents don't, they come to my races and they support. They're not allowed to stand at the start line. They're not allowed to be at the finish line until the race is over. I don't want to see you. Don't come and talk to me in the middle of the run. It's a distraction. And it's a good one. It's always welcome. I love that they're there, but I can't rely on what if they don't show up? What if something happens and they get delayed and I'm looking for them? Or I'm on the start line and my dad yells like, "Go Kaillie." And then all of a sudden I'm like, "Dad?" Like these are things that can't happen. So I have to remove them. I have those conversations with my family. There's a time and place that my husband comes on tour. He's very aware of where he needs to stand and what it is. So I'm also a bit of a control freak. So I definitely control a lot of aspects, But in doing so, it allows me to not have to think about any distraction. I've monitored them all. I've set everything up. It should go according to plan. And if it doesn't, and I biff it or I make a mistake, I need to be very aware of what caused that mistake so that I can give myself the best chance to not do it again. And that's mostly what I focus on. There's a learning aspect, and you're always going to make mistakes. Things are going to happen, but I believe in learning from them and understanding that they are going to happen and not to get too down on yourself. But when you learn from it, then you can move forward and past it a lot faster. And there's no point in dwelling because it can't change it. All it does is delay how fast you learn from it and move forward. So learn the lesson and then move on.
Wow. Yeah. I guess your margin for error is a lot smaller by controlling as many distractions as you can. That's great. What about your, like I talk about the sense of time, the prefrontal cortex, when that's active, you're very aware of time, but when you're actually in flow and performing at your best, time is like this nebulous concept. It doesn't even exist. Obviously you're flying down the hill, down the run. Like for you, does time slow down or does it speed up, or do you have any concept of it?
I don't have any concept of it. I have no idea. I've had good runs that felt fast. I've had good runs that felt slow. I've had slow runs that I was like, I nailed it. And the time is so slow. And I'm like, what happened? And then I have everything is different. So understanding though, that the only thing I can control is my performance. And time for me is a big thing because I'm judged completely on time, 100%, how fast we start at the beginning and what our time is at the end. And so I've had to learn not to focus on the results, time being one of those things. And I know that's not what you're meaning in regards to how fast things come at you. But for me, there's two parts to that. And the first part is understanding that when I'm judged on time, I can't focus on that end result. I can't be stuck on the end result. Well, if I score this goal, then we win. Okay, but you got to do a lot to score the goal. So focus on the stuff that makes a difference. Focus on the things that get you to scoring that goal so you can win, that gets you to the bottom faster. What do I have to do in my corners to nail them, to have the most speed going down, corner after corner? And if I make a mistake, who cares? You can't go back and fix it. Move forward ahead, constantly thinking ahead and working on those steps to get you to that end result. Stop thinking about the end result itself. And I think in doing so, it does slow things down because again, it allows me to focus on the process, on the steps that are involved to get that end goal that I want. And so then time does become irrelevant. And when I'm on the track, the same thing happens. Corner one, corner two, corner three. How do these things line up one after another? If I make a mistake, move forward. How do I fix it to get to the next one to still have, a great corner? And so by constantly evaluating where I'm at, planning ahead and not dwelling on the past or dwelling on the end result, it allows me to stay in the moment, which I think allows time to slow down completely by fully living in that moment.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, have you used tools to improve your focus like meditation, or strictly been like track-based?
I would like to tell you I use meditation. A lot of people talk about it. I have tried. I'm sure it's really good. But it doesn't, I don't know. I don't get it. Maybe I do it wrong. I don't understand. But we do a lot of visualization. Okay. I do a lot of visualization. So even in the summer, when we can't get on the bobsled track, I will literally go through tracks every day or every second or third day and just in my head, because your head doesn't differentiate versus in real life or in your head processes it the same. So I can close my eyes, I can picture a track, I can go through it, and I should be able to do it in pretty real time, corner after corner. And so I can do 100 runs in my head. Physically, I can do 2 or 3 runs on a bobsled track and I'm exhausted. So using the visualization, using the mental imagery has helped huge. Picturing what it is that I want, I think is also very, very important in regards to the goal. And then again, focusing on the steps on how to achieve it, but definitely visualization and imagery for me are very key parts.
No, it's a great tool. I think, most people, they work on the physical, but the mental aspect of focus, and whether it be meditation or visualization, I think you have to exercise that to get better at it. So
you have to, for sure. And like, even if I'm in the gym and I'm struggling to make a connection. I feel like my back chain isn't working, hamstring's not on, butt's not on. I got to think about it. I'll break down the steps. I'm trying to do a power clean and I make a mistake. Okay, take the weight away, close my eyes, do the motion without the weight. There's tons you can do to walk through it to make sure that you're executing the brain versus the head. It doesn't have to be just on the track. It can be in your kitchen at any point, but definitely using the visualization and whatever it is you're trying to achieve, not just goal-wise, but action-wise, is vital.
Well, thanks a million, Kaillie. These hints have been phenomenal. Yeah, just to summarize, Kaillie's given us some incredible insights, and you see why there's a reason for being so successful year after year. She's owned the sport, she dominated it, and it was all about focus. And I think you brought up some key things. So basically developing an immunity to distractions, limiting, the distractions that way. I think chunking, scheduling the time for the rest of life. I think that was excellent. So I think, if any of the listeners, the viewers want more information, they can certainly see this video on www.athleticwise.com. But anyways, thanks a million, Kaillie. That was incredibly insightful. Have an amazing season.
Thank you very much. And I appreciate this time to share the knowledge that I have. And again, people can contact me on social media or otherwise too if you do have questions, especially young athletes. I am one of the veterans now, even if it's not in bobsled stuff, if it's anything. But if you guys have, if you're struggling with an area or a question or something, then definitely hit me up, and I will do my best to answer it.
Yeah, you're an incredible role model. So thanks a million.